World Development System. Chapter 141. Judd saw that Swan was still making a face as if he found something and immediately dismissed him so as to not raise any of his suspicions. Okay, we will leave for now. Go and rest. Judd thought as he decided to go to his quarters quietly. Damn, the kids these days are so hard to handle, they doubt every damn thing just because of my reputation. Can't they just respect me as a senior? Meanwhile, Bran was just behind Judd when he heard him lecturing Swan. Bran smiled and asked both of them, Judd, why don't we report this matter to Blake? I don't think anyone would mind. Judd was immediately alarmed as he heard Bran from behind. No, Bran, no, he is just a kid, so it's nothing serious. Everyone has an exploring spirit, right? He then whispered into his ears, damn fatty, okay, you win, don't make me lose face in front of this kid, he will gossip about this to everyone for sure if I lose face. I can give you that new bottle of wine which I stole from Blake's room earlier. How about it, deal? Don't make me lose face, please. Bran smiled and saw his haggard expression and gave the signal that he agreed and spoke to Swan. Okay, Judd, on your account I won't report this. Kid, go back, we have to go into the forest tomorrow for exploration. Swan thought before he left, something is definitely fishy here. That selfish asshole Judd is helping me this time around, I can't believe it. Both of them are definitely planning something. Anyway, I better make preparations for tomorrow as we will try to find those horses. Meanwhile, Judd was in Blake's room as he reported about Swan's encounter in the forest today. Blake thought as he heard him, so this time that brat found some unique horses which could be quite helpful for us. I think they would be quite hard to tame since they live on this island and might be dangerous. However, it would be worth a shot if they can be tamed, if what he claims that they can swim in water is true. Then these horses could add a completely new dimension to naval and land warfare. Okay, you make your preparations to explore the forest tomorrow. Take more men with you to catch them. Judd was surprised and asked Blake, you aren't angry at that kid even after that previous incident? Blake shook his head and said with a smile on his face, nah, men should be free and their wings open if they wish to grow. We had made our choices and we shouldn't mull over it. That kid is just like you, unbridled and uncontrollable, of course, that is only applicable for you. Meanwhile, take care when you guys explore the forest, take extra ammunition in case of emergencies. Royal family's reaction to war. King Lionheart meanwhile saw a report from Ambassador Luke. King Lionheart roared as soon as he saw the report, what, that Shorty is starting a war with him just because his son died? Did he really announce it? Doesn't he know this would unintentionally involve that half-elf as well and create a civil war if that elf decides to help that count no matter the cost? Ambassador Luke then reported to him another thing, yes, he announced it at his banquet. They have already started propaganda in Laguna East Domain. This time even the Radiant Church is funding them from behind the scenes because of the humiliation faced by Francis at the hands of Count John. This is also one of the reasons why Fjord is uncontrollable this time, as he has the funding of the Radiant Church while he has gathered enough lords for his campaign. Luke continued as he reported about the eastern borders. Additionally, the dwarves too have increased their patrols on our eastern borders, and hence indirectly Fjord is warning us if we take any actions. This is also one of the reasons why the ministers are reluctant to sanction Fjord, or this would be more problematic as Fjord would think that we are prioritizing the Count more while he is higher in the hierarchy. I too think taking a neutral stand is the best course of action this time around based on the current events. Lionheart thought with a calm head and asked, okay, what about those ballistas? Has he delivered the blueprints yet? Winter is just 2 months away. Luke thought and spoke, yes, they are going to be delivered in a few days. He hopes that we give him political support this time around. Luke then continued as he spoke, I have promised him that as long as he and his men are innocent then we will support him as the Radiant Church is supporting Fjord from behind the scenes. What do you think, Lord? Lionheart shook his head and spoke, cancel that promise as soon as you receive the ballista blueprints. Give him reasons that investigation is still going and drag this matter till the end of the war. Luke surprisingly looked at Lionheart and asked, "Are you sure, my lord?" Lionheart arrogantly spoke, "Yes, he has no other use than his ballistas. And once we have it, what can we get from him? We will strike him if given a chance at the end of the war, or make a deal to take those new technologies in the war when he is in dire straits to take them legally. Yes, we will make the most out of this war. This war can subsequently weaken Fjord. Meanwhile, the threat of dwarves can be solved as long as we those blueprints and ballistas fitted onto our naval assets." Lionheart was quite proud of his plan, as he planned to strengthen the royal family's power this time around. Luke reminded, as the king was in his dreams of dominating everything, what about the Blucia house? This could be a Pandora's box if not controlled well. After investing so much, I don't think they would easily give up their investment which they made in that count. We could suffer the consequences in the form of assassinations. Lionheart huffed angrily as he spoke, that Shorty already opened the Pandora's box, so nothing can be done. We have to make our choices, and I guess that court will get the short end of it this time around. I am only thinking of measures which can give the best results for us. Bring in Plato and Master Ianred as well. This time we would require their counsel so that we can control this war from the shadows." Lionheart smiled mysteriously and added, "As for Blucia house, we don't need to worry about them, as we have prepared something for them as well. I was quite reluctant about their proposal before, but I can consider it this time around since the circumstances demand us right now." Luke's spine chilled as he heard him and remembered the Fire Abyss Prince's secret arrival just a few days ago and understood what King Lionheart was thinking. "I guess something big will happen since the king is considering their proposal. However, I wonder why is that Count doing the stupidity of giving his weapons to us so early? Is there some trap, or is he overconfident in himself?" Luke left to bring in Plato and Ianred so that their meeting and discussions could start. Both Plato and Ianred met in the hall when they were going to King Lionheart's chambers. Ianred spoke in a grumpy voice as soon as he saw Plato, "It seems something serious is taking place since both of us are called. Even that brat Luke is here today. I guess this is all because of that Shorty." Plato smiled and spoke as he heard Ianred, "Well, I expected this meeting to take place after Fjord's announcement. I have a pretty good solution for this time's problem. Meanwhile, how was your ritual when you and your old friends tried it last time around? Were there any results?" Ianred sighed as he remembered about the previous ritual that took place. "Don't even make me remember it, this was a complete failure. I think it is the future that is constantly changing, so it is very hard to predict the major events that will occur in the north this time around. What we saw was a lot of dead bodies that can't be identified how they died, the eye of the storm being the borders of North Frontier City. I sense something ominous is going to occur this time around. And rest was all a fog of war. Such an amount of resources spent, and we can't even see the face of that count and predict from his reaction on what would happen next. Well, let's go in and see what will happen. In the end, it is the decision of the king, we can only counsel and guide him." Chapter 142. Plato smiled as he nodded and agreed, "That's true, we all have our own agendas and convictions. I find this as a big opportunity this time around." Luke arrived in the hall and invited them in. Luke greeted them and invited them in as he saw them in the hall. "It's good you both arrived on time, His Majesty is already waiting for us, let's go. Let's not make him wait any longer." King Lionheart asked them after telling them the situation, "I don't want bullshit greeting. Let's get to the point. I am sure you guys must have already realized the consequences after his speech. So what do you guys think we should do, Plato?" "Master." Plato then again reconfirmed from the king, "Your Majesty, are you sure that Count John is going to provide blueprints of the ballista in a few days?" King and Luke nodded and confirmed that Count John had indeed promised them to deliver the blueprints. Luke reconfirmed and spoke, "Yes, there are no doubts about this, Minister Plato. I personally spoke with Count John, he gave his word when we conversed previously." Plato confusingly thought and spoke, "Why is he doing that now? Is he so desperate now as demons are asking for more, or he has confidence that we will not betray? Or is he baiting us into taking action against him? But does that small count even has the capital or army matching us and the strength to bait us? This is quite confusing. Plato thought and continued as he bought various scenarios. In this case, I think we should be neutral until the end and attack only in the end. This will help us weaken Duke Fjord, and he will be forced to make concessions and reveal some of the secrets of his warships to us. However, if we want to eat up Count John and his wealth, then we would have to deal with Blucia House as well, which could be very tricky, and we need to be careful. Lionheart nodded and revealed his plans. Well, I have a perfect plan for this. Recently Fire Abyss Prince Chad recently contacted us and proposed a cooperation deal with us. They only wanted printing technology in exchange for their help in solving the Blucia House's problem. Currently, he is one of the princes who is vying for the throne. They can make a situation at Blucia domain so that Vlad would be forced to return to the Fire Abyss Kingdom, or even if he doesn't return, they at least won't be able to send men and help them. We can strike them at that point. Plato didn't give his opinions and waited for Ian Red opinion first. He asked Ian Red, "What do you think, Master Ian Red?" Ern thought carefully and said, "If we take a neutral position, then this will undoubtedly send our intentions to Count John that we don't intend to protect him, whether it is politically or militarily. Do you still believe he will trust us?" "I am guessing he is hiding something. This time we saw a lot of dead bodies, and it can't happen unless it is a big war." It was at the land and water borders of the North Frontier City. They were full of dead bodies, and the most notable thing was their new types of walls and weapons. I couldn't even identify how do they use that weapon, and I could only see the glimpses, not how they were used. However, if we support that count, then Fjord will certainly take help from dwarves, and this will open a Pandora box which will fill the whole region into a big war. However, we have a very big army, while that count doesn't even have that much population to match our army. So it would be safe to bet on Fjord and keep the chaos as low as possible while gaining the most benefits out of it. Ian Red gravely continued, "And the thing is, we have to choose our sides now, as that count has support from Duke Sapphire or most likely Lookoff. This is the first time where even I am not able to predict anything regarding this situation. I think we are too late this time. We should have resolved their differences before they took action. I wonder if that count deliberately killed Evan so that this situation gets out of control. Who the fuck killed Fjord's son? I swear I will skin him alive, as I can't even predict shit this time around." Plato then remarked, "We don't have to worry about Sapphire. He will be held at the Southern Theatre by the lords, most likely, who were rallied by Fjord. So I don't think he will take any steps apart from his usual trading. I think we can squeeze Count John in the winter when he faces food shortages, and that will be our chance to grab him by the neck and make him hand over his slaves so that this situation can stabilize a bit after appeasing Fjord. And I guess what Master Ian Red said is correct as well, as we will have to choose our sides right now. Because most of the people would be easily able to perceive our intentions. However, enraging Fjord would be very fatal right now, at least as he can collaborate with dwarves, and recently the dwarves have increased their patrols on our borders as reported by the Royal Navy, so we have a situation in our hands if we enrage Shorty. And that count is just a nobody. We have our Dragon Knights to deal with him even if he has something hidden. As for who killed Evan, I don't think we should dwell on it. Master Ian Red, you aren't this cautious usually. What's the matter this time?" Plato thought as he heard some rumors claiming that Prince Hector started this whole incident and tried to deflect from the killer of Evan. Master Ian Red shook his head and spoke, "I just feel there are ominous times ahead, as we can't even predict about a mere count's future. I guess he will be someone big, as we can't predict about him. The most confusing part is him giving the blueprints of his new weapon to us after Fjord's announcement. Is he a fool or just afraid in crunch times? Because if he kept that weapon until the end, then we would have a legitimate reason to support him, and even Fjord won't be able to continue this war for long and come to the table to talk. We would at least have not taken sides if he decided to delay the handover of the blueprints, and as you said, we have our Dragon Knights in case of emergencies." As soon as Lionheart heard about Lookoff, he decided already and gave orders in a calm manner so that he doesn't seem biased, giving orders out of emotions. I guess we will follow with Plato's plan because we can't enrage Fjord as we would suffer more losses in containing them, though we can handle him it would be very damaging to the royal family. The very fact that Lukov supports him and he has a good relation with Lukov is bad. This is also the reason why the Radiant Church is ignoring our collaboration with Fire Abyss Kingdom this time around. Additionally, I would rather want his chefs in our royal mansion. Our restaurants are getting a lot of flack because of their domain's cuisines and those stubborn chefs. Plato nodded and spoke, if this is the case, we can't be too cautious this time around, this weapon has changed a lot of things and we can't be left behind. This will also help us increase our control in the surrounding regions. We can also use mercenaries to reduce our losses, they can get a free hand at looting common populace in return of supporting us in this war. While we will also encourage migration to North Frontier towns so this increases the burden of food in that town. When the time comes we will use it to our advantage. Even though they can make medicines to cope up with the Radiant Church but they still have limited land to produce food and can't change the fact that they have to change land after some years. I guess they might already be starting to face the problem of food with an increase in population. Their only solution is an invasion of beast lands. I guess he wants those northern beastlands and hence fulfilling that contract. Such a moron. Ian Red nodded and spoke, I guess we will follow the orders. However, we still need to be cautious of the Radiant Church and Prince Lukov if they try anything this time around. By the way Luke, you should keep in contact with that Count and keep an eye on him as he is completely unpredictable. As for population, yes we can use this trick to increase their burden and strike them during the winter when he needs food. I guess that was also the reason why he signed the previous deal where he can buy enough food at market yes, right Luke? He is quite perceptive and far-sighted to be honest. Luke then reminded them of another matter, yes, I guess that was the reason why he made a deal with us, a far-sighted individual indeed but we would have to break the contract if we intend to use it to our advantage. But, what do we do about Prince Hector? I don't think he will remain quiet this time around when Fjord and John exchange blows with each other. What if that Count assassinates Hector out of anger by their assassins? You all heard about Grey and that guy called Sylvan, right? Plato shook his head spoke, we can simply say that we too are short on food because of the current war and hence the shortage of food while using it to our advantage. We shouldn't worry about Prince Hector as Alistair is a very capable man when it comes to the protection of the Lord. As for this situation, that Count bought this on himself. He shouldn't have made so many enemies left and right. Either he is a fool or rather very clever if he has enough strength and power to deliberately create this situation. Plato smiled with a mysterious smile as he ended his sentence. Ian Red felt an ominous vibe when he heard Plato. Plato laughed and spoke, haha, who am I joking to? He can't possibly have this much power. Lionheart too laughed as he heard Plato and adjourned the meeting, ha ha ha, damn, your jokes aren't funny. Okay, this meeting is finished, we will go according to our plans. Are you guys clear? Ian Red murmured as he left irritatingly, I hope what I am thinking doesn't become true. This is such a tricky situation. I hate these ominous vibes. Damn, why can't I predict his future, have I lost it? Chapter 143. Meanwhile, in the eastern port city, Henry was currently finishing the funeral of his wife. With determination in his eyes, he spoke in front of Lucia's grave, your sacrifice won't go in vain, Lucia. I was too naive or being intentionally naive and believed that my efforts would be awarded. I guess I will stick to my ideals for the first time in my life after getting released from my shackles of the oath. Henry saw that a lot of warships that were gathering at the eastern port and murmured, I guess war is really approaching this time around. I wonder if Count John can resist Duke Fjord's fleet with his ballistas and their range. Judging from Fjord's personality he might already be drooling over this weapon and increase his power no matter the cost. Henry then looked south nostalgically and spoke as he left the town with a determined look, I guess I need to fulfill my promise I made to you, Lucy. I will be heading to Iron Rainforest, Sapphire's domain. I guess I will make him honor his promise after all these years. I never asked him, but this time I will ask him. I hope Lucius can find me if hears about my presence at Southern Domain. In a nearby pub, a few dwarves were chatting in an unknown language. One dwarf named Wilson spoke, "Why don't we sneak in and take one of those ballistas installed in those ships of Morgan family or Count John?" The head of dwarves named Greg spoke, "You think I haven't tried that already? I already lost a lot of men trying to steal those weapons. Even the local thugs call it a grave and are refusing even to scout the ships. Those assassin demons of the Blucia house protect them stealthily at night. We can't expose ourselves by getting desperate. We are not the only ones who are sending people to steal that weapon. Even that pussy Baron, Mendez's men don't dare offend them in case Count John gets angry and assassinate him or his loved ones. Haven't you seen his Antonio? Even he has lost his previous arrogance." Wilson furrowed his brows but didn't rebut him and asked about another thing. "What about Tornwall? Wasn't he dead or kidnapped by mercenaries? What do we do about him? We can get blueprints from him since he designed it. Additionally, hasn't he already revealed a lot of our technologies? Don't we need to assassinate him as he is a traitor?" Greg only shook his head and spoke, "We are going there to learn craftsmanship from him. We are not doing anything of that sort. He is a prided jewel of our kingdom. It would be good if we can convince him to come back. Additionally, there is a lot of surveillance and protection given to all the important men close to Count John. We don't want to suffer the same fate as that guy, Francis. You might not know, but he was given incredible torture and hence his confession last time around. Or do you think those stubborn guys would budge so easily?" Wilson disagreed and spoke, "What about those protections? Don't we have those new weapons?" Greg then continued with a serious face, "Though we have developed shot, we can't reveal it so early in the game. Those weapons won't be released until there is a major war or we have produced enough of them to dominate land and waters. And he might have a lot of things from rune masters to protect himself. So we can't be sure of the assassination. And if we fail they will get our weapon and this will expose the dwarf kingdom, at least to that count." Another dwarf named Jackson spoke in a serious manner and with a cold expression as soon as Wilson mentioned about shot. "Wilson, listen to Head, he is correct. Don't be hot-headed. We can't act as we wish. Remember we are not at home but as spies here. And don't make me say it twice. Greg, you are the same, act as a leader as you are. Don't make me solve your problems. Wilson, as for being a traitor, who knows who is the real traitor? I am only going to follow orders, nothing more, nothing less. You should do the same for your well-being. Don't involve yourself too much into politics or you might lose your life in the future because of your loose mouth." Jackson didn't speak anything as he completed his piece. Wilson didn't speak anything as he heard Jackson as he was quite afraid of him. Meanwhile, the other dwarves kept their mouth shut as it seemed like this whole group didn't wish to speak a word on the topic of being a traitor. Watching everyone keep quiet, Greg nodded and concluded, "Okay, we will go to North Frontier Town and try to get blueprints since it seems war is coming here. It was good that Fjords helped us penetrate this deep in the Northlands. From now on, we need to be careful as there is a lot of surveillance at North Frontier Town. We just need to act like other dwarves over there. Not high and mighty, are you clear, Wilson? And you should remember what Jackson said earlier. Never mention that ever again, he is saying this for your well-being." Wilson nodded and agreed. Greg ordered everyone watching Wilson agree, "Okay, let's go to the hotel and rest, we will leave for the North Frontier City tomorrow morning." One of the people from town asked Tornwall as he saw him making machine parts, "Looking at your face, it seems you are real busy these days, Tornwall." Tornwall smiled and replied to yes, "This time I am collaborating with that brat Refone and making the clock tower which is really important for the town and hence the workload." Tornwall thought, "I guess production of guns is one of the reasons for this load. However, this is really important for the upcoming war. It's good that everyone is normal even after that explosive news from Duke Fjord." He still spoke in a worrying manner, "All work and no fun is no good torn wall, you should always take care of your body." One of the journalists named Aldrin was recently working at the Rose Institute. He was an elf who arrived here from the Sapphire Domain as he wanted to explore North Frontier Town after hearing about it. Chapter 144. Aldrin was first noticed by Glenn because of his work attitude and his adventurous spirit, as he was always curious about most of the things in the Institute. Because of this adventurous spirit, he was hired by Glenn from the Institute to the Black and White Publishing House as an investigative journalist. He mostly wrote about the things happening inside the city and the villages nearby, as he investigated a lot of things personally and was more interested in the local culture. He also helped in crime investigation, as once he helped Joe to solve a murder case that took place recently. He usually wrote about government affairs and analyzed things that benefited common people and helped them keep informed of the general things occurring in the domain. Today Aldrin was quite excited because of important orders that came directly from Taylor. Currently, Aldrin was writing about the speech of Duke Fjord's banquet that took place just a few days back on Taylor's order. While his assistant was making the sketch of the banquet that took place in the banquet, one of their traitor spies from the Eastern Domain described the banquet that took place in detail and reported all the words spoken by Fjord clearly. Taylor asked him, "Describe the banquet in detail with the expressions and reactions of everyone, also talk about what happened with Henry and his family in detail." This piece will be published in tomorrow's issue as a headline along with the announcement of Fjord. This will be our first political piece. This time we have to prepare our population for war. We will have to assure them about our weapons and security while also give them our perspective of Fjord's raid on our ships and why we retaliated. Do both of you understand? Both the traitor and Aldrin nodded. Taylor continued and said this to the one in charge of the production of newspapers: "Increase the production of this issue to double, no triple it, as we will spread this news in other domains as well." Taylor told Aldrin, who was listening to the traitor, "Aldrin, I hope you can write it early, as I have to show this draft to the Lord. This issue will only be personally approved by the Lord. You don't have to worry, just write about the events that took place in your own way, since you are the best writer of our newspaper currently, as you are able to explain easily and hence the readers like it. Propaganda may be bad, but sometimes you have to do propaganda to counter your enemy's propaganda. Lord John says that many nations have fallen just because of propaganda and people's rebellion." Aldrin was quite excited after heard from Taylor that Lord John himself was going to review the draft. Aldrin nodded and spoke, "This is quite a new perspective. I never knew about the power of propaganda. You don't have to worry, Lord Taylor, since they are the aggressors. I will write a brilliant piece." Taylor murmured as he spoke the earlier words, "I guess it was good revealing this bit of news to them. These guys are working extra hard after hearing this news." Taylor thought about the recent meeting and the decision that took place. "I wonder if it was good baiting the royal family, since we decided to give them the blueprints of a weaker version of the ballista in a few days. I hope they don't get cautious because of our move. I guess Lord has his own reasons for giving them the blueprints. You will be big in the future if you can utilize your position well, Aldrin. Don't underestimate this job and power of a journalist. Lord himself thinks the same way." Aldrin nodded and spoke after hearing Taylor, "Yes, I will keep these words in my mind." After getting the draft from Aldrin, Taylor headed to John's office for a quick review. John nodded as he looked at the story. "Okay, this is a good piece and very neutral. You can publish it tomorrow, and yeah, don't forget to publish about Francis and Radiant Church in tomorrow's edition. Tomorrow will be special, as this will be the first we will use the power of newspapers and comment on political movements that took in and outside of the domain that will affect North Frontier City. As Radiant Church wants to move behind the scenes and fund Fjord, then they will have to pay its price. This time we will shame them publicly via our newspapers and show their hypocritic nature to the common people of our domain at least. This was also one of the reasons why I wanted my domain to be learned. Also, start recruiting new men in our armies from now on. Teach them the new techniques that I designed earlier, which will be helpful for gun training and close combat training. This will be the standard from now on. Meanwhile, make the production of guns, ballistas, and their ammunition our highest priority. If possible, increase the number of factories to increase production. John murmured as he ended his last sentence, "Do I buy the cannon blueprints at such exorbitant prices? I guess I need to be cautious. I don't even know the real firepower of the Dragon Knights. I should be cautious in case the royal family deploys them at the end of the war." Taylor nodded and spoke, "Okay, Lord, I will make sure to personally oversee the production of all our strategic resources." This time Jack did a good job in acquiring the strategic raw materials. "I hope he continues his good work." He continued, "Lord, I was always wondering if it was right to give the ballista blueprints to the royal family this early. Won't they get cautious by such a move? And wouldn't it be disastrous for us if the royal family gains our weapons this early?" John smiled and spoke as he heard Taylor's question, "You don't need to worry, even if they are cautious, they will have to pick a side. And this was exactly my aim in giving them the ballista blueprints this early. This way we can at least act obnoxious after the war. They will find a lot of problems even if I give them the correct blueprints. A lot of small parts would need precise machines for production. Because of this, after the initial spares are used, they will start cursing their decision when they are not able to replicate the machines. As for the weapon itself, we don't have to worry, we have weapons that are more threatening and are with a bigger range. Meanwhile, I have also improved the new ballistas just recently after discovering a new metal. So we don't need to worry. Meanwhile, is there any news from Ross and Blake from Aurora Island?" Meanwhile, John thought, this way we can have a legitimate reason to rebel and create a state free from them after their betrayal. This is a good enough bait if they act upon their greed. Taylor thought and spoke as he handed a report to John after hearing about Aurora Island. "Okay, I more or less understand why we are baiting them, since they need to choose a side in this war. And as for the second question, yes, we got a report from one of the ships that Ross and his men just landed at Aurora Island. They also found some new exotic species and have decided to domesticate them. Here is the report on the animals that reside at Aurora Island." John carefully read the report and spoke, Quite a lot of unique animals. This new type of horse seems very interesting. Try to domesticate it if possible. They can be added to our army if we are successfully able to domesticate them. The very fact that they are able to swim in the water and run on land at such speeds is a very big geographical advantage to any army. It looks like the construction of the base is going well. From now on, start transferring a part of our army there. It seems like it will take some time to completely tame that island. However, that base in itself is enough for now. Did they find any sort of mines over there so that transportation costs can be reduced? Taylor shook his and reported, "Nope, they only landed when this report was sent by the ship 1 day later. I guess we can only know more about the island in their next report. Meanwhile, we will be continuously sending ships there, as it would seem that we are only patrolling the northern waters." John nodded, "Okay. Inform me as soon as you get a new report from Ross." Chapter 145. The next day there was a hubbub in the commercial area as well as the residential areas very early in the morning after the newspapers were distributed to everyone in the city, including the nearby village. These days a lot of people traveled from nearby cities with their bicycles to North Frontier City. Many ambitious individuals had even enrolled in the Rose Institute and had a basic literacy to read at least. Currently, a lot of people were able to read the newspaper because of its popularity and hence the enthusiasm among the common populace to educate itself. Glenn sighed looking at the changes that took place in the city. Currently, he was watching the commotion and gossip among people after reading the daily newspaper. Plato spoke, "I wonder how those old men at the Institute would react watching your hold on power and influence just via the black and white press." Glenn smiled as he heard Plato and spoke, "I am sure they would be quite angry, as I intentionally employed a lot of people who weren't given opportunities because of their stances or their offense to a certain noble. They also revealed a lot of scandals which the Imperial University had covered up because of monetary or political gains. I wonder when we can write about the royal family." Plato thought a bit and gave his thoughts, I guess there is still time as we aren't in a fully antagonistic relationship with the royal family and hence the wait. Meanwhile, this new guy Aldrin is quite good at evoking the emotions of people. Just this piece on Henry could evoke a lot of emotions from people. It is written as if he is one who suffered the cruelty of Duke Fjord. After reading the morning newspaper. Like always, one of the shop owners read the newspaper looking for any government tenders. He spoke angrily after reading the first page. Who does he think he is? After such a long wait we finally got peace and economic solution thanks to Lord John, and because of this Duke's greed he wants to destroy North Frontier City. God, he is even willing to use his son's death so that he has a legitimate cause to invade us. Just looking at the way he treated his former officer, I am sure he thinks nothing but only about himself. I am sure he was the one deliberately sent his son to create a here. I am sure he is eyeing the trade route between the North Frontier City and Ironwood Forest, as a lot of trade is taking place over there just a few days ago. Nowadays, even small traders like us are able to earn a good amount of money because of this trade route by pooling money. Another shopkeeper spoke after reading it. I don't think it is only because of money, but there are other intentions as well. I think it is most likely because of the new weapons that the Lord introduced a few days ago to warn the ones who have malicious eyes on us. I think it is most probably because of the results Fjord got when his navy tried to loot the Morgan fleet and faced the ballistas, and hence his greed for such a strategic weapon. The only place they are better currently is because of their warships and experience in the sea, and hence he may be trying his luck right now to get them. An old man who had a big cloth shop spoke after reading the newspaper. I don't care about them, but I for surely care about this land. I will help in my personal capacity if the North Frontier City is in a crisis. I wish I was young, then I would have joined the army immediately. I was never able to become a knight. And hence I became a small-time trader. However, it was good, since it would have corrupted my morals after watching how brazen they were in the cities all over the years. At least the ones in power are full of greed. I guess the good ones faced the same fate as this guy Henry faced. However, this time I will send my grandsons for sure. Look closely in the newspaper. Even Count John made a speech as he hopes to recruit young people in his army. However, he is not going to forcefully recruit them as he values their choice, but he hopes people come together in these tough times. An unselfish lord, I won't mind sacrificing my life for such a lord. Previously I was in the Imperial City and only transferred here after this land was sold by Baron, and was worried about it since it was most likely abandoned by that Baron. It was such a boon I never expected. The first spoke after reading another piece. Look at the hypocrisy of Radiant Church as well. They would willingly ignore that arrogant guy Francis as he is the disciple of Cardinal St. Paul, but they would be sure to punish anyone who isn't in power as they sinned or more likely didn't agree with them. I am sure a lot of people are looking at this, which includes the followers of Radiant Church itself. I guess this also one of the reasons why they wanted the printing technology of our North Frontier towns so that they can control the flow of information. Look, it is also reported that they have also stopped giving medical services to our town after the last debacle. It's good that Lord already had plans in case we faced such situations, and we are already getting all the types of medicines from the hospitals built by Lord John. I recently heard they even found the cure for the deadly malaria virus, which would only be cured after giving a hefty amount of money to the chiefs of the Radiant Church. Many times they would even convert people as they were hopeless and didn't have a choice. The second shopkeeper spoke. Yet I too heard about malaria. It will be launched in full after some days. Lord has also announced the policies for recruited soldiers. It seems any slain soldier's family would get a lifetime of pension and free studies to children till adulthood. I guess Lord wants to increase the goodwill among all the people. I never heard about these policies in other kingdoms. Ambassador Luke worriedly looked at the newspaper and the reactions of people. He thought, I guess I underestimated the power of these newspapers and the printing press. I am quite surprised that so many of the people in this town are able to read and write. I don't know where we should start worrying. I guess he always had plans to set up the newspaper printing press, but instead he first invested in the Rose Institute as people could become educated, and that is when he can use the real power of this printing press. I guess it is still better than the Radiant Church getting the printing press, or this would have become a recipe of disaster for us. And it seems they were the ones who downed Fjord's ship earlier. At least one good news. Luke called his subordinate and gave him the orders, make sure to give this letter only to Master Ianred or King Lionheart. Take my token, as this will help you go through to the inner royal palace. The subordinate nodded and left, taking his orders. Okay, my lord. Bishop Robert thought after watching the first political piece from the North Frontier Times, just as I thought, this would be a big weapon. This Count sure is a dangerous guy, as he too knew about the power of this printing press so early in the game, and hence he was cautious as he built the Rose Institute first. It seems they really downed Fjord's ship earlier. This war will be costly. I thought Fjord was merely lying when he made the previous announcement. We too need both of these weapons. Arrange a meeting already. Pallet Frustrating spoke as he was eating at Hope with Simon. What are these guys making a commotion for? Isn't this just a small matter, and most of the things are already known to most of the people, right Simon? Simon rolled his eyes as heard Pallet and angrily spoke, it is only known to us as we are important people. Most of the times common populace don't even get an ounce of such information. Are you an idiot or what? How the fuck were you even able to get a recommendation and join my team? This is a natural reaction when people get to know about so many political happenings at once. Simon watched Joe, who too was eating at Hope and at the same time eyeing them, and yet I know you are spying us. No need to hide, we aren't doing any illegal activities here. I am here just because of this fatty. He likes spending his monthly earning here every time. Joe thought irritatingly, who was eating in a natural manner, these guys are on the priority list with grading A+. I can't be careless against them. I guess I am quite lucky, free lunch at Hope is quite good. And damn, I get discovered even after the harsh training with Jake's team. I guess I will tail them if they meet any suspicious individuals. And yes, this fatty likes the food here at Hope. Maybe we can bribe him in future with the good incentives if he has any critical information. Joe spoke in a calm manner after hearing Simon, you talking to me? I am only here for my lunch. Don't overthink yourself being somebody big. I have to look after my cases. Joe left after completing his lunch and told his subordinate to look after these men in case of any suspicious movements. One of the customers of Tornwall's shop asked Tim, who was working, Tim, what are you doing? You look quite happy nowadays. Is there some good news? Tim scratched his horns as he spoke, well, I just learned to craft runes from Master, and since a few days ago I was successfully able to craft the ballista projectiles with magical runes, so you can guess my reason for my happy mood. Recently I also learned a lot of other skills as a forger from Master. Master being able to give me so much of his precious in such a busy schedule is very inspiring. I too will become like Master and the best craftsman in the whole world. I will also trade. Tim wanted to speak more, but he kept his mouth as soon as he saw his master's glare. The customer then asked Tornwall, it seems you are quite busy with Clock Tower nowadays, Tornwall. You and Refone both haven't gone to Hope for the wines as well. Are you planning to visit any time in the future? Tornwall smiled and spoke, well, I guess it's a little busy these days since there is an increase in orders from Lord's Mansion for ballista factories. The domain will get busy these days. So I don't think I would have time to visit Hope anytime. Well, I still have my barrels of those new wines at home, so I don't worry about wine nowadays. I guess this is one of the privileges of being the chief forger of this town. He sighed and spoke, I guess your workload is because of Duke Fjord. Well, we too are preparing to train the local militias with the new skills provided by Lord John. See you later, Torn. If something new comes up, inform us, I will visit you later. Tornwall then watched Tim, sighed and spoke, kid, you should learn to keep your mouth closed. Since you are my disciple, you will have a greater responsibility in the future. We can't reveal anything right now as we are already in a war. Treat it as a war even though it hasn't started. We will have big responsibilities. It's good you kept your mouth shut after my glare. You along with me would have died if you had revealed anything about Aurora Island. Red, who came just now, spoke from Tornwall back. Whom are you lecturing? You two have a loose mouth. It is only these days that you are controlling your uncontrolled mouth. Tornwall laughed as he heard Red and spoke. I guess my disciple takes after me. Well, there are difficult times ahead, so we need to be prepared already. Get back to work everyone, no chit-chat. Tim nodded and spoke after hearing Tornwall. Yes, Master. I will keep these teachings in mind. I was too excited after I heard that I will go to that town. Red too left for his own share of work on Ballystay after grabbing his lunch. At the Northern Radiant Church headquarters, there was a meeting taking place. Bishop Robert sighed as he looked at the newspaper and spoke to his subordinate. It seems they have finally started to use this weapon of propaganda. This is also one of the reasons why I wanted this technology so badly in our hands. I could have used it to increase my own influence to become the next pope. I hope our churches at the North Frontier City don't get ransacked after this peace. What was the reaction of people in North Frontier City? The subordinate nodded and spoke. It seems a lot of young men have decided to join their army. Just in a day, they were able to recruit 3,000 soldiers out of 15,000 candidates. However, even after this news, people are still willing to migrate to North Frontier City. It seems the royal family is intentionally doing that while North Frontier City as well as is happily taking these people. Most of their food supplies currently being supplied through the Ironwood Forest or the Imperial Capital. The royal family is quite happy in selling them excess food right now for a profit. I don't understand them. There was also meeting taking place in the Radiant City's church. David read one of the newspapers and slammed it. Damn, they are using those newspapers to malign our image in public. What do we do about the matter of Francis? This upstart is really getting on my nerves. St. Paul thought and spoke. It seems he took this action because of our decision to fund Fjord this time around. I guess this is one of his ways of retaliation and using propaganda to make a negative image of ours. I guess everyone is starting to use their trump cards now that the war is coming. Ominous time ahead indeed. One of the cardinals spoke. I don't think we need to worry about this newspaper. Even if the common people know about it, what can they do about it? Isn't it all about power at upper circles? St. Paul nodded and added, as for Francis, he will not be seen in public for some time. People will soon forget about him, then he can come out. If it comes to worst, we can simply change his identity, at least in public. I will make sure of it. As for our internal matter, make it seem like that Count used drugs on Francis forcefully to make that speech against his will. The very fact that he is a pharmacologist will help our case. We will ban those drugs coming out of his domain, claiming it is sinful. Pope David asked about another important matter. Didn't we ban our services in North Frontier City? Have there been any results till now? The fifth cardinal named René calmly spoke after hearing David. No, instead there is a new problem. What do we about the typhoid medicines which that Count has released to his populace just now recently after our ban? Usually, people would beg us to cure them and would willingly convert in return for our help. Now, this is a serious problem. And there is also the serious problem of that new uncurable medicines for malaria. Calvin agreed and spoke. True, there is the problem of those medicines which are coming out of North Frontier City. They have completely taken over the nearby markets. Many people are losing their faith in Radiant Church. We have lost a lot of people in the North Frontier City and their nearby villages. The charity is decreasing at a steady rate nowadays in that place. I hope it doesn't spread to other domains. It looks like royal family doesn't intend to do anything in this matter. They are quite happy watching our situation. They are also ones who provided those pharmacologists to that demon Count. René added, meanwhile, that Count is earning hell loads of money. At the same time, the royal family is encouraging poor people to migrate to North Frontier City. Isn't this fatal for us? I hope this doesn't backfire us. We are also funding Fjord this time around. This war will be very costly, looking at the past report where Morgans downed Fjord's ship in the seas. Pope David angrily knocked the table, cursed, "God damn it. How the fuck did that count found out the solutions of these diseases so early after our suspension of services? Even the Grand Masters spent their entire lifetime to research just one disease. If this continues for long he would touch our foundation, he has to die. After Lukov no one has managed to anger me to such an extent." Pope David crushed the newspaper as he said those words. Cardinal René spoke gravely, "Yes, that count is really an anomaly. Previously we could at least buy those Grand Masters off with money and flattering words or kill them if necessary. It would be quite hard to deal with this count. Quite an unexpected enemy we have found this time around. I guess this count always researched diseases from the start as he viewed us as his enemies and hence his precautions. There is Grand Podi Wunner Melanie, it was good that we were able to force her out of the court after exposing the royal palace. As for killing that count, haven't you tried that already? Our only chance would be to strike him during this war. St. Paul suddenly spoke after hearing them out, maybe, we should seriously start funding Charlie as he is quite a clever and cunning guy. What do you guys think? Fourth Cardinal, Gabriel, who was one of the oldest cardinals, spoke for the first time after hearing them out, yes, we should hedge our bets. Even if the royal family tries to reduce our influence we can still fund their progeny to control them behind the scenes. It was good that Lukov didn't come to power or else it would have been difficult times for us ahead. And now there is another lunatic in that count as well. I think he would prove to be our biggest enemy to date." Pope David heard and nodded, "I agree. There are difficult times ahead. Felix will be our first choice, Charlie from now on will be our second choice. For Felix to emerge victorious he needs to kill Lukov and that is uncertain in the near future. We will hedge our bets to contain both of these lunatics. We need a bigger lunatic for both of them. Charlie would be a good addition. Wasn't he involved in that scandal 10 years ago where he started selling common populace to fund his entrance in the royal circle?" Calvin thought as he heard Pope David, "I don't think there is any other bigger lunatic than you in this whole kingdom. Of course, there is Felix and Lukov as well. I guess I will continue this job as long as my life is not in danger." Chapter 146. John spoke reading one of the reports from his spies. It seems that the royal family has decided and made their choice. It seems they still value the internal harmony and reduction of losses and hence their indirect support to Duke Fjord. I guess they have forced us this time around. This time they will see a war that was never witnessed in this continent. Taylor, from now on gather as much food as possible, even if it means buying at exorbitant prices from other domains. Try making trade routes to the southern island of Elf Kingdom as well. This time we can't trust the royal family as they may go back on their deal. The way they are encouraging people to migrate here at North Frontier Town reflects that they will use food as big leverage from now on and wait for the perfect time to strike us when we are in dire need of food. I am sure they too are planning for raids and secrets. That would mainly be internally on our granaries, I think. Anyway, increase the security of the granary. As for the immigrants, we will take in more people, as our domain will need people in the future and this works to our benefit. The royal family is just behaving the way I expected them to. I guess they are easy to manipulate." Taylor nodded and added his position on the current matter, "Lord, it's good that we can already make contacts with the elves because of Duke Sapphire. Their nature magic with our newest technologies and farming techniques will increase agricultural production in our domain, many-fold. I will try to contact elves on a personal level as well. When our biggest trade fleet travels there, I will send our naval fleet as well to protect them." John nodded, "Yes, it will be a big and good opportunity for us. We have to start making preparations for their arrival as said by Duke Sapphire. I hope to get their cooperation in exchange for nature magic. I want this meeting to be a success. Make the best of our preparations which goes well with their local culture. If needed hire a man who is adept at elvish culture in South." Taylor noted the requirements on a memo and spoke, "Yes, Lord. I will make sure that this meeting will be a success for us. Meanwhile, Ross read a letter which was addressed to him and spoke to Blake soon afterward. Blake, you will have to leave for now and join Eric at the eastern port. I hope you can report to Lord that we have found a lot of metal mines and some new types of mines that we are investigating currently. However, our biggest gain this time is the magic metal mine from our exploration this time around. Making ammunition, as well as our guns and ballistay, would give us the best results with the magic metal. It is a piece of big news for our domain since war is near. I hope you can relay it to Lord personally. Blake nodded. Well, that's all okay, but what about those blue horses? I feel they will be our biggest assets in case of war. They are quite mobile in water as well as land. For the blue horses. We will keep them here. We are calling it Aurora horses as they are the native of this island. You only need to report about them directly to Lord Taylor or Lord himself. Because I feel taking Aurora horses to the mainland will expose their uniqueness and people will naturally be curious about them, which will, in turn, expose this island and our base. I think we should keep them hidden. Make sure to make a gag order so that no one spills one bean about it. We will use these horses in the war for invasion as well as escape. Additionally, they will be great for kiting. Blake asked confusingly, what is kiting? Ross smiled and spoke, a new term made by Lord. You will understand later on. Blake nodded even though he didn't understand. True, I too feel they would be our biggest assets in the war. They can tackle geographical advantages and are quite diverse with a lot of mobility compared to normal horses. Well, I still need to know what is kiting. Ross reminded Tornwall. Meanwhile, tell Master Tornwall that he can send his disciple Tim immediately as we can start other operations over here as it is safe now compared to before. From the letters and reports, this time it seems that Fjord will start sending his hordes of ships and start raiding soon enough, as there has been an increase in the number of ships as well as the posture of their navy on Morgan fleet which travels north regularly. Morgan family will be in danger if they don't get our support in time. They only have 5 ships. These days they are only traveling with Duke Rose's ship to avoid confrontation, as Duke Rose's men too are armed with ballistay. Blake frustratingly spoke, such a hassle, man, can't you just write and jot it down to report it to Lord? How do you expect me to remember so many things at once? Ross shook his head. Nat, there is a lot of confidential information this time. Lord specifically said that he wanted to hear it from your mouth or your trusted man's mouth himself, as he doesn't want to leak any information this time. With so much information, I naturally wouldn't have trusted you, but I guess this time orders are orders. All of us have to follow them. Blake sighed in front of inevitable circumstances. Okay, would you be okay with 3 ships over here? Ross thought and spoke. 3 ships are okay for now. Bring more supplies for ammunition, next time you travel. During this war, you can use this island as your base and take them by surprise in case something expected happens. I think you will get more ships on the way you come here. This time I am going to make shipyard over here so that we can realize all the new types of ships that Lord wishes to make this time around. Blake laughed as he heard about the shipyard and ships. Ha ha ha. Good, I will be hoping for a big and armed shipyard along with the coast. I expect nothing less from the new inventions of Lord John's designs. Okay, I will be leaving now. On the western front in a certain manner. Lukov spoke to Duncan after hearing the new reports. This time, we will act against Felix when the Radiant Church focuses and reduces their surveillance on us and increasing their focus on Count John. This time I will catch all of those assholes unprepared. He will be tortured just like his knights who committed that sin in the past. I have never forgotten that night. Felix will beg me to kill him when I catch him. As for that old man, I will make sure to make him go insane after he hears of this news. Humph. He thinks I don't know about his deliberate ignorance and his support to him behind the scenes just because I loved Apophis, who was demon girl. He seems to think that I don't know about his disdain for the demons. This kingdom will be in turmoil after Fjord starts his raid, and I will make sure it is in chaos. Duncan nodded and agreed. Yes, my lord. Our armies are all set for your orders. We are fully prepared to raid our enemies. Lukov nodded. Okay, what are the reports on Hector's side? Duncan took out a document and spoke. From our reports, he will attack Count John after the war starts. It seems he hasn't heeded your advice. Do you still want to save him? Lukov shook his head as he heard Duncan. No, it is his choice. I will only consider it if he comes to me. Duncan cautiously asked, what about Count John? I think he is someone who values words. Hector has offended him a lot of times. If it were you in Count's place, you would have already killed him, or a conspiracy would have been going on to kill him. Meanwhile, Count John is also aware of Hector's plan of assassinating him long ago. When Evan's incident happened, Hector decided to stop that assassination. This time as well, this war has started because of Hector's conspiracy. You might already know that, right? Lukov thought nostalgically and then spoke with determination. I guess then this is Hector's fate, as he takes a lot after Felix. I guess this start of the war is still good for us, as I won't get the same chance ever again to catch Felix again. Okay, I have decided, we will start collecting strategic resources and also order more of those ballistas from Count John. Offer him critical information, as he would most likely want to arm himself with information right now. My revenge for Apophis is greater than anything in this world. I will make sure that our plan succeeds this time around. Those assholes will pay for what they did to Apophis. No one can stop me this time around. Not even my mother. Duncan listened and spoke. Okay, my lord. Is there anything else? Lukov reconfirmed again. Are there any suspicious movements from anyone? Duncan thought about suspicious movements and thought about Ralph. I think Ralph is one, and another one would be Count John himself, as he is increasing the northern patrols nowadays with the new ships he bought. While Charlie also is making suspicious movements this time around, with Radiant Church contacting him frequently. Currently, Charlie's whereabouts are unknown. Meanwhile, I think Count John is overthinking that the dwarves will invade, and hence his increase in patrolling in the northern waters nowadays. Lukov spoke with a grave tone. Maybe there is something else. My instincts say so. I don't think Count John would worry about dwarves right now, at least, and even if the dwarves invade this time, they will be in for a surprise with these new weapons. And they would not be foolish enough to invade without any inspection and surveillance on local populace. I don't think they will invade until the end of this war, when Fjord asks their help. Duncan thought about certain scenarios and agreed, but thought about a certain report. I guess this is true as well. They won't invade without thinking, but from the reports, these days they had a lot of aggressive patrols in the eastern waters. It seems something has changed, at least when it comes to their patrols. I guess I am only imagining. There is also another peculiarity to note. Recently Count John and his men are buying food at an alarming rate, and that too at exorbitant prices. Should we be alarmed? Lukov smiled and spoke. As expected, he doesn't trust that slimy old man. I think he already guessed that old man's intentions, and hence his buying spree. The only thing he has to worry about is the old man Ian Red and the Dragon Knights, who can change the battlefield within a short time after they are deployed. Anyways, we will attack Felix's castle after Fjord starts his raids on Count John. At that time the church would be more focused on the eastern hemisphere. At that time I will see how that asshole David saves Felix's ass. After Felix, David will be the one who we will target and try to capture. They won't have an easy death after what they did Apophis. Duncan sighed as he heard Lukov and thought nostalgically, I guess the end fate of Apophis was the turning point in Lord's life. She had a lot of influence on the Lord. I guess Lord truly loved Apophis. Both Lord and that girl are pitiful souls indeed. That Pope indeed is a devil in white clothes, clinging to power by any means. I guess he feared Lord's influence on the Radiant Church and the kingdom if he married a demon girl. Even Lionheart was no good. A corrupt man. I guess this comes because of his fight for the throne with his brother. Chapter 147. At the Rose Institute, currently, Eva was training her magical skills after her last encounter where she almost lost her life. These days she was very stressed because of her cousin who just arrived from the imperial capital to meet her grandma Melanie. His name was Dwight Simmons, son of her uncle. Dwight was with his subordinate currently. He was one of the best students of the Imperial University. While at the same time he was an honorary teacher at the institute because of his excellent grades, he came here because of a mission recently. Dwight was with his subordinate in one of the pubs at North Frontier City. This time the mission would be very difficult to achieve, plus that old hag won't even let me go near her library. And it would be very difficult to rob those new medicines, and I don't want to face the same fate as granduncle. This mission is quite a headache. The subordinate reminded, but master, this time the mission is given by Defense Minister Plato personally, even your father is in support of this. Master Plato expects to get those medicines since they want to reduce the influence of the Radiant Church as much as possible. Even many of the Grand Masters were quite surprised by the release of those new medicines by Count John to counter the Radiant Church. It was quite unexpected. Many of them believe that Grand Petitioner Melanie was one of the architects of this plan to counter the Radiant Church. Additionally, you are the best bet that Minister Plato thinks can be useful in bringing those new medicines. Because of that new organization and the demon Vlad, we have lost a lot of men trying to procure those new drugs. Dwight rebuked, true, that upstart is only riding on the success of our bloodline. If it were not for that old hag who protected him from behind the scenes, do you think the court would have taken such a late decision against him? This time, because of those new weapons and Count John's stubborn attitude of protecting a slave, a lot of things have changed. Can't he bow his head just once? What is with this ego? Anyway, I was able to talk normally to Grandma Melanie, but as usual, she won't let anyone go near her books apart from Eva and that bloody upstart disciple. Those books are rusting in the hands of that upstart. The subordinate reminded after hearing Dwight's roar, be careful, my lord, there are a lot of ears in this town. From what I heard from Minister Plato, according to his investigations, around 50% of the spies are exposed to that count. The anti-spying is particularly being carried out by that new unit named Ghosts. We have lost many of the important assets who were close to discovering important things. We would not want to be discovered for our plans. These guys document a lot of things that help them in discovering spies. Because of this, Minister Plato is recently funding the local thugs just to get more information on Count John. Dwight sighed after he heard him and spoke with a calm head, I guess it is to be expected after that previous assassination on Eva and now the upcoming war. Maybe I will try to persuade them to migrate to the Imperial City since this city will be in chaos. I hope Eva doesn't bear a lot of grudges. The subordinate shook his head and spoke, however, I don't think Grand Petitioner Melanie will come or even join politics because of the previous incident where your uncle and aunt died. Minister Plato hopes to use her influence on Count John to bring in all the new technologies brought forward by Count John to improve the economic condition of the kingdom. He perceives him to be quite a dangerous individual. He places him even higher than Prince Lukov. He isn't worried about Prince Lukov but more about that lord and his recent stubbornness. So our only bet this time will be to take those medicines from Grandma Melanie's pharmacy or persuade Grand Petitioner Melanie. However, recently there has been a lot of ghosts patrolling in civilian clothes near the pharmacy. Why don't you visit the Rose Institute to interact with Miss Melanie? That institute looks quite grand. I heard there has been a lot of dissenters from the Imperial University who joined them. We can get their views as well. Dwight nodded and irritatingly spoke, well, I will anyway try to persuade Grandma and Eva. As for that institute, it is still hollow from inside without any knowledge. The Imperial University has a history behind it. While this place is just grand on the outer side with nothing to show apart from money and funding done by that upstart. As for visiting that institute, I don't want to anger the dean. He is already pissed because of the printing press that is launching those books at half the prices. The subordinate nodded as heard about the printing press. True, I recently bought many books which were written by professors of Rose Institute as they were cheap and gave a new perspective. As I recalled, they are being published by the Black and White Press. The same company which publishes those newspapers in this town. Those newspapers are useful, to be honest. Many new businesses are copying Hope and using that newspaper to advertise their business on it. Dwight rebuked as he heard him. Humph, I don't even like the face of that newspaper. It is completely biased with those dissenter writers spouting bullshit and ruining the image of some professors of the Imperial University. Not knowing the mood, the subordinate still continued after hearing Dwight, but from what I know, Professor Glenn was the best professor. He was never promoted because of the petty politics in the university, isn't that correct, Lord? Dwight angrily roared after hearing this. Just one incident doesn't mean all others are right as well. Dwight knew about it, but he still didn't wish to hear about it as he never faced the problems which were faced by others. Because of his bloodline and the power behind it, he never faced such problems. Hearing his own roar, Dwight calmed down and apologized. I am sorry for roaring again, I guess I lost my calmness. Anyway, I will be leaving and try to meet Grandma Melanie again tomorrow. Josephine approached Eva in the institute and asked, Eva, I heard your cousin from Imperial University just arrived here. I guess he is worried because of the upcoming war and hence came to persuade you and Grandma. Right. Eva rebuked and spoke after hearing her. Of course his intentions are clear. Grandma spoke that he most probably is targeting the new medicines that were recently introduced by John. However, it would be ironic if he finds out that the medicines were particularly produced by John himself. That boy Dwight is a kid when it comes to judging people. Grandma Melanie already knew that the ministers in the Imperial City would be very impatient after finding out the medicines and would try to use us to get to John. Particularly Defense Minister, Plato. Grandma said he was quite an ambitious and cautious individual. Josephine nodded. So they are targeting the new medicines. I guess because of all the new things coming out every day, I didn't saw its importance. Recently, you are training more than what you usually did, you are even actively asking pointers from John when it comes to magic. Josephine thought as she asked the question, why do I feel stressed whenever Eva and John are near? The last incident almost made them a couple. If he were not dense it would have been bad. Eva nodded and spoke, yes, after the previous scare, I don't want to face that situation again. Though John is only a basic magician. He has very good at the control and hold over his magic. This has also helped me improve my fusion magic, so I guess this is one of the reasons. I heard Sally was quite worried nowadays. Where is she? Josephine sighed and spoke, well, it's because of all the events that have taken place recently. Right now, she is teaching the new students magic at Rose Institute nowadays. Eva thought and spoke, sigh, I guess it is because of Prince Lukov and Duke Fjord. What about those brats you usually train with? Where are they? Josephine smiled as she heard about those brats. They are training with Jake nowadays. Of them the new boy Lucius is quite a hard-working boy. I guess he will join the assassins very early with the other brats even though he joined quite late. I guess they are currently under his personal training. They will come out as assassins or warriors, according to their needs. I hope they don't get caught up in the war. They will most likely be going to that new island that was discovered recently by Admiral Blake. I think it is called Aurora Island. Eva thought as she heard about Aurora Island from Taylor. Aurora Island, I guess I would want to visit it once. Josephine sighed and spoke, we can only visit it after the construction of that island is done completely. That's what John told me. Chapter 148. Joseph asked Jack at the administrative headquarters, so you finally defied them and joined me here at North Frontier City at last? So how does it feel now after coming here? Jack sighed and spoke, yes, I had to, it's good that I made my decision before the war. My brothers and cousins would have eaten me alive after John's scuffle with the Radiant Church. However, my family has disowned me so that Duke Norman doesn't target them. I guess would have seen this fate anyway when the problems increased. It was better that I left early. Joseph smiled and spoke, I guess they envy your relations with John and the money you are making in your business because of those relations. They most probably feel threatened because of your increased power. It was the same for me. Taking a position early on is better than not taking a position. This city has changed a lot of things in the Elias kingdom. Who would have imagined that a barren place could bring so many changes, whether cultural, political, or technological? Jack nodded after watching the new changes that included the roads, cycles, building or other tools introduced recently. I would say it was John that bought these changes. Most of the technologies have been bought forward by John himself in this town. Take the new cycles for example. Traveling has become much easier for people, and the same is the case for business. Or take those new clothes for example, which has inspired many people to pursue designing and earn a fortune. However, the biggest change I see is the literacy rate of this town, which has skyrocketed. Even the common men could read and write, which was quite unexpected previously. John quite understandably took a big decision when he made the institute. While the other biggest change would be the introduction of those ballistae, this has changed a lot of things, especially political changes. This time expect a big war, you know, right? Joseph nodded seriously as he heard him. True, I too was surprised by how fast the people are learning in this town. I guess many of those professors are feeling threatened by this new generation. Well, as for the war, I heard about it, and recently there has been an increase of goods bought by domains, so I thought something was unusual. We too have orders to buy a lot of amount of food while not caring about the prices. What do you know? Jack whispered after hearing him. As I am in the Strategic Resources Department, we too have been on a buying spree these days. So I understood a lot of things from this. We are already preparing for war. You must have seen that political piece in the newspaper recently, right? Joseph nodded as heard about the newspaper. Yes, that was quite an unusual piece. As we didn't poke in other matters usually, especially political issues. I guess you are right. I guess John wants to keep most of the things under wrap and would only release it when he is prepared and when the time is right. He doesn't want to create any panic or chaos in upper administration without any solutions. Jack nodded. I guess this is one of the reasons why people are still calm after Fjord's recent announcement. People are doing their work with much higher motivation these days, as Lord is confident. At the administrative headquarters, John ordered Taylor, dispatch the blueprints of the ballistae and tell Ambassador Luke that we have already handed over the blueprints to the related personnel. I hope that he keeps his end of the promise. Tell him that as a citizen of the Elias kingdom, it is our duty to be useful to the nation, and one of the reasons why we are delivering the weapons so early. Okay. John smiled as he sarcastically ended his sentence. Taylor smiled as he heard him. Yes. My lord. I will make sure to relay every word to Ambassador Luke. John continued, I rather hope they don't keep their end of the promise, as I would have a legitimate reason to rebel. I just hope that seer named Ian Red doesn't ruin my plans because of his ability as a seer. I have heard a lot about him from Master Vlad and Master Melanie. Even Lukov warned me about him in his recent letter. I hope they just take me as an arrogant brat. That would be good for everyone. Taylor nodded and left after taking the orders. I will immediately go and report to Ambassador Luke about the blueprints. One of Ambassador's men came and reported to Luke hesitatingly, Lord, we have received the blueprints of the ballistae which Count John promised. Mr. Taylor has also reminded us to keep our end of the promise. It seems he was in quite a hurry this time around. Ambassador Luke spoke after hearing the report. Something is really fishy and suspicious with Count John giving his blueprints so early. Knowing his personality and cunningness, I don't think he's so naive to believe us. I wonder what he has stored in his plans. I am sure he has planned something big. The subordinate continued as Luke murmured, meanwhile, Lord Taylor wants to personally meet you as the dispatch of the blueprints has been made to our men. Luke thought a bit and agreed. He thought, I guess there is no harm in meeting him at least. At last we are getting the blueprints early on. I am sure King would be happy. Luke spoke the subordinate after making the decision. Okay, I will meet him later in the evening. Taylor gave a very heartening smile when he met Luke and spoke, "I am sure the royal family will keep its end of the promise. Lord John is a man of his words and very loyal to the kingdom, and hence the early dispatch of the blueprints and machines to make the ballista. We hope the royal family will reward us fruitfully for our sacrifices. Are you enjoying your time here at North Frontier City?" Ambassador Luke saw that Taylor wasn't intense and was relaxed as usual as he spoke. "Sure enough, he is a man of his words. You guys made a big scene by that piece on Fjord and Radiant Church this morning. Of course, what I said earlier still counts. I now understand why the Radiant Church wanted to that printing press from you guys. It's good that you guys kept it to yourself, or it would have been a recipe of disaster, since the Radiant Church has a bigger influence in the whole kingdom. As for this city, North Frontier City comes second best after the imperial capital. However, the delicacies here are the best. As for Count John, we, of course, don't doubt his loyalty. He has increased the exports and income of the kingdom, and hence we know his loyalties. We will, of course, keep our end of the promise." Taylor smiled as he heard Luke, as if he knew that Ambassador Luke was lying through his teeth. "We too hope the same. We have handed over the blueprints and the production machines to your men, so you won't have to worry." Luke shivered as he saw Taylor's smile and thought, "Am I imagining? Why do I feel like I am being played this time around?" Luke continued, "Nah, I guess my nerves are just tight because of the previous and upcoming events." Chapter 149. Blake met John before departing for his first raids. John met Blake, who gave him the report. So you guys found a magic metal mine and a lot of unknown new mines as well. I guess I need to personally go to that island and watch those mines firsthand and evaluate them. As for those horses, I want you guys to tame them and completely domesticate them without fail. Just their use in water would be a big boost to our army. See their habits and what they eat. These horses will be a big strategic weapon for us. Also, check if there are any other types of animals that would be useful to us in future use." Blake nodded, then reminded John of the dwarves he saw earlier during their travel. "We are already in the process of locating the main area of the dwelling of those horses. From our investigation we found that they were quite deep into the island, which would take some time. It is basically due to their ability to swim and run at extreme good speeds that they are quite mobile. We also found that these Aurora horses can use water magic and are quite dangerous in the seas. Taming them would require soldiers who are above par. Practically we would need our best soldiers. Lord, there is a serious issue. We have seen that the dwarves have particularly increased their patrols on the northern waters nowadays. Even after taking a roundabout way, it seems they have increased their area of operations. If not for the hydras in the seas and our telescopes, we might have inadvertently encountered them, which would have certainly led to a clash. How do we deal with them?" John thought and spoke immediately. Okay, you can handle it as you wish. Make sure that Aurora Island is not discovered by anyone. Kill them if they discover anything about our operations on it, and make sure no one escapes if they discover us and a conflict arises. The magic metal mine itself is a big resource for us in this war, which we can't let others discover until the time is right. We will build better weapons and ammunition with them with the magic metal at our disposal. This time Tim will be coming with you for this big project of Aurora Island. Make sure to protect him, as he will be in charge of all the military production in the city. Even he doesn't know about the scope of his responsibilities. Tornwall intends to train him with this war. Meanwhile, you guys are banned from using the guns in this war when you engage Fjord. You have to make do with the mini ballistas. However, you can use the normal guns when you engage the dwarves in the seas. The guns will only be released after a big move by either Fjord, Prince Hector, Radiant Church, or the royal family. However, I intend to save it for the last salvos. We are currently developing more guns, which includes snipers as well as assault rifles. Currently, we are focusing on axe, which would be produced in bulk. So I want to give them a very big surprise when all of them attack us. I will particularly release the news about magic metals at the right time, which will completely fill them with greed. Make sure to train your archers with my training manual, as it will help them later on when they handle the sniper rifles. If you want an example, then take Grey Assassination of Sylvan as 2/10 of the real firepower of the snipers when it comes to range. They will be further improved with magic metals and runes, so you can just imagine its power. Blake shivered as he heard John's plan of provoking all of them at once while having such weapons at his disposal. He thought, damn, Lord has quite the big guts. I can expect a lot of fun times under Lord John. I wonder how will the royal family react when all their plans come for naught. Meanwhile, John thought as he heard about dwarves, I guess the previous mission will be cleared after we fully build the Aurora City. And this dwarven threat may also be the threat that the system claimed about earlier. John continued as he gave orders to Blake, this time you will be deployed in the eastern seas and your men will protect the eastern port for now and our important trade fleets that would travel south. If you see Fjord's fleet, then you can attack them at will. We are already at war, so you don't have to be shy. I am currently more focused on our land borders because at this time Prince Hector and Radiant Church may try to stir something big. There are already many infiltrations that have taken place by the mercenaries. The most I am worried about are the mercenaries that will create havoc after the war starts. After the war starts, you too can start your old pirate life when it comes to the ships which have Fjords and their allies' flag. And yeah, you can raid fleet of Radiant Church as well. I already hate their guts and arrogance. Blake laughed hysterically as he saw unfettered freedom and wings for his activities against Fjord. Ha 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 ha, thank you, Lord, you are the best. This time I will make sure to make Fjord's naval fleet run home naked. Let's see who does the running this time around. With the speed of our new ships and these bally's stay, we will undoubtedly be the kings of eastern and northern seas. This time I will make his whole navy a laughing stock out in the whole kingdom. Meanwhile, what is the name of these ships? John smiled as he answered, they are called galleons. But it's a little bit different from galleons. This time you guys did a good job at taming that island. However, don't display the full firepower of the ships at the start. After some big shots move, then you can show its real power. For the next 2 months, you guys will also make a city on the northeastern port, that is north of eastern port of Mendez's domain. This time we will secretly make a supply chain joining Aurora City to North Frontier City with the secret northeastern port in the middle. So this time we will increase men and ships for this project, and that is also the reason why I personally posted about the recruitment in the previous newspaper. Anyways, go, you will start your patrols immediately. Sarah meanwhile commented as John tried to show his proud self when it came to the galleons. Humph, what difference does it have apart from the improvements made within it? You are just a plagiarizer. Don't be proud. The foundational designs of the galleons haven't changed. John coughed a bit as he heard Sarah non-stop blabbering. Blake nodded after the orders. Okay, I will inform my men about the latest developments. John reminded him to meet Tornwall before his departure, and yes, before departing, go and meet Tornwall. He wants to meet you personally. Blake nodded as he remembered his talk with Ross previously. Okay. I will make sure of it. Blake smiled and thought, I guess Tornwall wants to make sure of the protection of his beloved disciple. Maybe I will be able to extort some more telescopes out of him. John murmured as Blake left, I wonder how do I greet the elves when they arrive during the war. I guess it was good asking Duke Sapphire's help. I will make sure to get their help in the agricultural field so that we remove our reliance on the imperial capital and they don't have anything to threaten us with. Captain Shannon was currently in the port of Laguna City. One of the night captains asked Shannon, who was busily ordering his men, looks like there is a lot of preparations going on? Is there anything special today? Chapter 150. Shannon smiled and simply gave small hints to him. Yes, this time something big will happen. Expect for the good news if everything goes according to the plans. I can't give you any more details. But it will be a big operation this time around. Shannon thought, currently we are going to make our biggest raid in the history of Fjord's reign. Last time we did such a raid was against the dwarves, elves, and that half-elf. I guess looking at the size of the fleet, this is a much bigger raid, I guess this will mark the start of Ballystay War. Shannon sighed and spoke in a light tone, this time even Darius is joining us in our raids, I hope he doesn't ruin my plans. Okay, I will leave for now. I have a meeting with Minister Jonas for now before I leave. I will meet you later. Darius, lately, he has been grumpy a lot. I hope everything goes well. I will leave for now. At the Laguna Mansion, there was a meeting going on between the ministers. Duke Fjord asked one of his ministers, so report me, are there any new developments on that upstart's end? And how are the preparations for the war going on? Are we ready for a full-scale war yet? One of the ministers spoke, yes Lord, we are already prepared, Captain Shannon is going to carry out the biggest raid in our history that he started yesterday. We will be indiscriminately targeting the north and eastern ships going north for trade and the same for the ships coming south. The war will officially start from tomorrow as they will meet the ships tomorrow and ambush them. Jonas, Grimm's strategist reported, as for any unusual or new developments, the Radiant Church is recently contacting Prince Charlie a lot while that upstart Count is recently worried about the dwarf invasion and is currently increasing the northern patrols in case of an invasion by them. We also recently helped those spies to penetrate deep inside the northern domain. Fjord nodded as he heard about the dwarven spies. Okay, no need to speak more on those spies, there are many ears in this court. What about the movements of the Templar armies of the Radiant Church? Are there any movements from their side? Jonas nodded, recently, they have all been recalled at the Radiant City. While some are deployed for the safety of Bishop Robert in North. I guess they too are preparing something. This time our naval fleet will certainly be able to teach that Count a lesson. We are also fully prepared to take those new ballistas from that Count's fleet. We have also hired a lot of engineers and craftsmen to replicate that weapon when we get our hands on it. We will be making full use of the speed of our ships to dominate them in water. While Lord Darius is also accompanying Admiral Shannon with his knights in this raid on the Morgan family ships. The Morgan family fleet is not being accompanied by Duke Sapphire and hence this would be our best chance to attack and get those Ballystay with minimum casualties. Fjord nodded, okay, we will wait for the good news. I hope they don't disappoint me. In the eastern seas. One of Shannon's subordinate reported him about the current status, Captain we are ready, we will most likely meet them in a few hours. Shannon nodded after hearing the report, okay. Alert the men and make sure they are ready. I don't want anyone slacking off today. This time our targets are those ballistas in Morgan family ships, so everyone needs to be focused. I have also deployed 50 ships so that we have a numbers advantage over them which would be helpful in acquiring the ships. This will be the biggest raid for me and I guess this would also mark the start of North-South War as it would likely engulf the North mainly and later South if Duke Sapphire retaliates. The subordinate thought and asked, I don't think we should be worried about the south. Aren't all those lords who were rallied recently are at southern borders facing Duke Sapphire's army? Shannon nodded and agreed, true, they were bought so that they can contain Duke Rose. As for the real battle, it will take place in the seas. However, we need to be careful and things can change at any time. As for Darius, how is he currently? Subordinate as he heard about Darius, Lord, currently he is with Lord Grimm in one of the other ships. They said they won't be interfering with your decisions so you can handle the whole fleet as you wish. Shannon looked at one of the ships where Grimm and Darius were traveling as he heard some voices and spoke, then, why do I hear the voices of women? Are we here for a picnic? The subordinate hesitated and finally spoke, Lord, actually, it was Darius and Lord Grimm who bought those women at the end moment. They thought that as we have the numbers advantage they can. Shannon was quite infuriated but kept his calm and spoke, enough. No need to explain. I hope they don't interfere with my plans because of their antics and happy picnic. It seems they are already near. Ready the men for raids regardless of any promise I make to them. Do you understand? Subordinate nodded and left to inform everyone on the main ship, yes, sir, I will immediately inform the men. Scout rang bells as soon as he spotted the ships 5 kilometers away from them at both the sides and informed Sean. Scout asked Eric and Sean, "Captain, Sean, there is a big fleet of 50-50 ships surrounding us. What are your orders?" Sean spoke to Eric and the scout. "It seems they have finally decided to attack us now that we are not traveling with Duke Rose's ships." Eric gave orders as soon as he saw the report. "No need to panic, it was expected. It seems they are finally all but ready for war. Sean, it will be a big battle this time around. Prepare all of our men for battle. It's good that they were able to rest before this upcoming battle. Inform everyone, we will fire at will without any hesitation. As soon as they reach the 500 meters mark, use the full force of our attacks, this includes the runic ballistas as well. This time we will show them what real wrath and war is like, we will make sure none of them survives this brutal battle." As their fleet came near, Shannon ordered his men, "Bring me the tool." "Yes, sir." Admiral Shannon used a magic tool to convey his orders before Eric's fleet of 5, Captain Eric of Morgan family, "As long as you surrender without bloodshed, I am sure our Lord will take mercy upon you guys and give the minimum punishment for your offense. Remember, this is the Eastern Seas, where only the Fjord naval fleet rules over it after the royal family, and you can do nothing when you are outnumbered so massively with a 10:1 ratio by us. As I know you are one of the smart men belonging to the Morgan family, you can do well to save the lives of your crewmates. We don't want any unnecessary blood spilled. You guys can very well join our army if you drop your arms, while at the same time you can get wages at officer level men if you can provide us the expertise on those ballistas." Eric too bought a tool to communicate. Eric laughed as he heard Shannon, "Ah, please, don't give me that bullshit. Do you really think I am a naive young man who will your lies? And you really have so much power to bestow us all these things? The very fact of Henry's fate is already clear to most of the men from North Frontier City despite his loyalty. At the same time, we have spoiled Fjord's party a lot of times when you guys tried to raid us even with the help of pirates. It was good that the pirates understood who was the king of seas and backed down after watching the fate of the main pirate group funded by Duke Fjord." Eric made a face full of mockery and asked, "So do you really think that Duke Fjord will be merciful to us? I think, by mercy, you mean a quick death, right? As for that offer, we already get good salaries by Joseph, it is the same as Count John's officers. As for you guys, you will face a fate far worse than those pirates who we annihilated earlier. Your very honor of knights will become a hindrance for you today. This time I will make sure to penetrate the word called fear right into your bones." Darius was watching the commotion for a long time. Darius couldn't take it any longer and roared, "The fuck are we waiting for after this humiliation? Charge!" Shannon's subordinate looked at Shannon for orders. Shannon nodded, which indicated that the order will be followed. Shannon finally gave orders, "Don't stop. Keep advancing." Finally, both the fleets were 1 kilometer away from each other. Eric still gave orders calmly after watching Fjord's fleet on both the sides, "Fire the ballista as soon as they come in 500 m range. No need to bother about the bullshit he spoke earlier. These guys need to be taught what is real fear in their minds so that they will think twice before attacking us again." Grim was quite surprised after watching Eric's behavior, while Darius roared after hearing Eric rebuke and ordered his men, ignoring Shannon, "No one will hold back, I will make sure that these guys will wish for death after such a proclamation. Follow right behind the vanguard, we will be targeting the main ship of that arrogant son of a bitch." Eric sighed as he saw the scene and coldly ordered his men that would claim a lot of lives, "Fire! No holding back! This will be our biggest battle today. We the men of seas should live like a king and die like a king. We will either go back with honor and victory in our hands or die with honor protecting our ideals and resolution. No need to worry about your families if we die. You can take my guarantee that the Lord will honor all of his promises even if it means that he is going bankrupt." Sean smiled and spoke, "Are you really saying this at such time? We have followed you for such a long time. Everyone understands the importance of this battle. This time Grim thought, why are these guys still unfazed by such a large force? Are their minds made of steel or have they gone mad just because they have some ballistas?